Welcome, guys, to the best division in football, the AFC North, but not only the best division, the best sports talk about the division, the AFC North Sports Talk channel. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. I'm joined by my several hosts, Tony Serino representing the Steelers. Tony, what's going on?
How's it going? I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about a great matchup this weekend.
My man, Sonny, representing the Ravens, SZG Sports. Sonny, what's going on?
Hey man, it's gonna be a matchup for us. It is what it is. I'm actually excited to talk about the marquee matchup of this division, so can't wait to get to that.
Likewise, and of course, my man Quincy Carrier. Quincy, how you doing tonight, man?
Yeah, man, a lot of big games this weekend coming up. You got Bengals Colts, you got Ravens Philly. The Browns, I don't know who they play this week. But it's just going to be an interesting mix of games. I'm just interested to have a peaceful, light-hearted conversation with everybody here in the chat and in the video.
So first of all, shout out to my man the Trib One with the donation there for us. We appreciate that. Setting the tone. Please know that Super Chat is now available. So if there's any questions that you guys want answered, if you want some kind of shout out from the crew, definitely be sure to leave a Super Chat in the comments. So let's kick it off. We're not going to go to our marquee matchup. We're going to save that for the end, but we want to start with the Ravens and the Eagles. And I'm going to start with Tony on this one. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the Eagles come off of a game obviously against my Steelers where they had a lot of success, a lot more success offensively than I think anyone would have predicted going into the game. Carson Wentz was so efficient on third down, 10 straight third down conversions for that Eagles team. And Travis Fulgham, right? Is Travis Fulgham just another guy? Because he looked like he might be a good young receiver in the NFL right now with some of the throws or some of the catches he was making last week. I think the difference in this game, though, is going to be that, regardless of how good Travis Fulgham is or how efficient Carson Wentz is, the Steelers secondary not playing well right now. Right? We saw Deshaun Watson have success against it. We saw even Jeff Driscoll have success against it, right? The strength of this Ravens defense right now is that secondary. And so the idea that Carson Wentz is going to, have the kind of time, and not that he had a ton of time against Steelers. Steelers had 5 sacks. They had a ton of pressure. But he was able to find holes in that secondary. I just don't see that happening. Now, you go back to the Ravens side of the ball and Lamar Jackson. Obviously, got to talk about his health, right? How healthy is he? Seems like he's practicing this week. He should be fine. He didn't look like himself, and they talked about it after the game. Harbaugh talked about how the Bengals gave them some different looks that they didn't expect going in. I think the Eagles represent one interesting test for them, which is that they can rush up the middle. If Fletcher Cox is healthy, they can rush up the middle. That has been an Achilles heel a little. If there is an Achilles heel of this Ravens team right now, that could be it. And if they can get to Lamar up the middle, they can slow down the Ravens rushing attack and put this in the hands of Lamar Jackson. Maybe they can have some success that way, but I just don't see them having the kind of success that they had against the Steelers defense. And so I think the Ravens win this one, probably win it pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to shift it to my man Quincy. It looks like we also have another super chat from my man Colt Linder. He says, "Love you, Q. Go Browns." But with that being said, how do you see this Ravens-Eagles game playing out, Q?
Thank you for that super chat, Colt. With this Eagles-Ravens game, what do we think is going to happen here? They're going to dominate, right? The Ravens are really good. I know the Ravens have some issues. I know people in Baltimore are kind of getting anxious about Lamar's seemingly inability to consistently move the ball throughout the air and the lack of commitment to the run game. But let's be honest, there's only 6 teams in the AFC that can take advantage of that, and this ain't playoff time yet. So, you're going to roll through a team like Philly because Philly can't do nothing really to stop that. Even if they do, Carson Wentz is probably going to revert back to the Carson Wentz he's been all season and start turning the ball over. The Ravens are really aggressive there. So, I would expect Baltimore to win here and probably win by multiple scores. I don't know what the spread is, but they should cover plus.
No, I think like what Quincy said, I definitely see it being the same way, especially after going through that Baltimore defense. We got pretty much depleted by it going against them last week. And I see this as a game where if Carson Wentz, that pressure gets to him, I can see them forcing some fumbles on Carson Wentz if he's able to get caught by that Baltimore pass rush for sure. And I think that this is going to be a game that gets out of hand. Yes, Lamar Jackson isn't playing his best ball, but it's still Lamar Jackson. He's still going to be able to make plays against this Eagles defense. And I think ultimately, like we learned last week and throughout this whole season, Baltimore Ravens are just a great football team. So I think that they keep it rolling. We all know that the Eagles aren't. There's a lot of issues going on there, whether it's the Carson Wentz situation, whether it's coaching, whether it's injuries. They just haven't really been good and have not just really been a good team this season. So Baltimore, I think, rolls on this one. And with that, I'm going to toss it to my man Sonny with his prediction for this Ravens-Eagles game.
The thing with this game is I think there's some success to be had for the Eagles on the defensive side against the Ravens offensive side. I think you guys alluded to this. Last week, the right guard missed it. The rookie right guard missed the game. And actually, the O-line looked better, especially that middle O-line. As you were saying, middle O-line has been a soft spot for us. The tackles for us have been fairly good, but that middle and the Eagles D-line is their strong suit. They have invested a lot of money in that D-line. So the question for them to have some sort of a chance, in my opinion, that D-line has to come to play. Has to come to be pressured Lamar through that middle. Even that still has I think the Ravens, where they're gonna win this game, is on the other side. I think the defense for the Ravens are gonna dominate this game because one thing the Eagles have, similar to the Bengals, is a weak O-line. Now, second thing is Carson Wentz also likes to get a little reckless with the ball. And the Ravens are very streaky and very turnover heavy. That defense will make forced fumbles, get interceptions. And not only that, they take it to the house or they just gain a lot of yards. So even if Lamar's still off his game and they're producing pressure, that leans to, look, Lamar playing again, I said it, one of the worst games that I've seen for him since his rookie year. Even against the Bengals playing good defense, our defense was so dominant that kept short field. The defense produced turnovers that led to a touchdown, led to just, like I said, short field. And that at that point, it's easier. Instead of going 80 yards when you had to go 40 yards, even if he wasn't rolling, he had just 2 drives that produced touchdown, the other 2 field goals, ball game, right? And I can see something very similar in this game. I can see Carson Wentz throwing 1 or 2 picks, we forcing 1 or 2 fumbles. The Ravens love to blitz. Carson Wentz loves to hold the ball. All that leans to turnovers. Like I said, I think on the defensive side for the Eagles, they can have somewhat success if they can pressure Lamar to the middle. But even with that, unless they come with a different game plan and they can stay turnover free, I see a blowout.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, especially like you said with Carson Wentz and the Ravens just loving to force fumbles. Obviously, they forced 2 against the Bengals, maybe even 3, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And that's 10 on the season for the Ravens. Shout out to the Trib again, man. Thank you for that super chat right there. He says that he wants to see us draft 6 interior offensive linemen next draft. I'm pretty sure that they has to be a Bengals fan. Has to be a Bengals fan. But with that said, let's shift to the other game that we have, and it's going to be my Cincinnati Bengals against the Indianapolis Colts. I'll kick this one off. I think that this is going to be a game where Joe Burrow really has to bounce back in this game, especially after that showing with only scoring 3 points. I just saw today that there was a report that the Ravens defensive coordinator was upset with Zach Taylor for going for 3. I guess we were just supposed to bend over and take it. I don't know what was going on there. But anyways, back on to the topic. Phillip Rivers, you guys see the name that I'm using right now. That is the only chance we have at winning this game. Phillip Rivers turning the ball over, making sure that Colts offense that's depleted right now at the wide receivers with them missing Pittman and their other receiver out with the injury as well. That is literally the only chance that we have in this game. The other thing is a lot of people have talked about AJ Green and stuff like that, but I actually learned last night after doing a crossover with Kevin Bowen, who represents the Colts. It seems that T.Y. Hilton is also on that back 9. So having William Jackson III on him is going to be key. Limiting this offense, causing some turnovers for Phillip Rivers, and making him try to stretch the field because obviously right now it doesn't seem like he's really good at that. That's the key to the game for the Bengals. Now, if Phillip Rivers is able to make some passes, which he did have a pretty good completion percentage to start the season, and if that defense that the Colts have is able to make plays, is able to get pressure on the Joe Burrow, then obviously seeing what we saw last week, that could be a recipe for the Colts to win this game. The one thing, though, that I was pleased to learn is that for some reason they do not blitz much. And I don't know how their defensive coordinator, given what just happened last week in Baltimore, would really go out there and say that they shouldn't blitz. I don't know why he would do that. If it were me, I would definitely blitz Joe Burrow. I could see them actually doing it if they haven't done it before. And this is also a defense that's good at getting turnovers. Obviously, the Ravens did the same, but it's a different kind of turnover. They like to try to get interceptions and stuff like that. So they're going to have to test this defense. This is a game last year that Joe Mixon had a good day against. And surprisingly, Darius Leonard, from what I'm hearing, hasn't looked like the Pro Bowl caliber Darius Leonard that we've seen in the past. But even with that, I know I took a lot of slack for saying that the Bengals were going to lose to the Jags. This is a good team. I mean, even though I feel like they're overrated, I don't feel like they're in the same elite class as some of the top teams in the NFL. They're still around the middle. And with that being said, I think that the Bengals are actually going to possibly lose this game. I think that it'll be close, but unless Phillip Rivers is going to throw 3 or 4 picks, I don't see the Bengals going in and winning this game. So with that said, we got another super chat here from my man Garrick Muse, $10. Appreciate that. He says, Ravens fan here. I love this channel. I love you all. This is truly the Avengers of the AFC North when it comes to objective discussions. May this channel continue to prosper. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that for sure. But with that being said, I will throw it to my man. Hold on. Looks like we got another one. William Coltrane.
Coming in.
He's got a question here. So I'm going to ask this question, and then we're going to go ahead and proceed with Quincy's prediction in this game and his analysis. William Coltrane says, Quincy, how do you think the matchup Sunday will change if OBJ has not recovered from the illness? Pass game, outside run blocking, also 4-1, go Browns.
Yeah, if OBJ is not going to be available, that's definitely going to be something that is going to be an issue just because I think those one-on-one matchups on the outside, you can really take advantage of against Pittsburgh, especially if they're going to be aggressive. So, yeah, you're going to want OBJ in there because I like OBJ one-on-one with any of them corners that Pittsburgh has, quite frankly. And especially if you're going to have them lined up on the same side as Terrell Edmonds. Yeah, that would be a big part of the game plan for me. So yeah, if he can't play, that's going to be a issue for the Cleveland Browns. What else was in there? Oh, outside running. I think they're going to be fine with that. Rashard Higgins can block well. They have some decent blockers at the wide receiver position. But yeah, thank you for the question, man. Thank you for the super chat, William. My thoughts on this game for the Bengals and Colts is that you mentioned that the Colts don't blitz much. They don't have to. They're very good with that front four. And I don't think they'll have to blitz against the Bengals because the Browns didn't have to blitz against the Bengals. And I think the Colts have a better defensive line than the Colts do. No, I think the Colts have a better defensive line. My apologies, than the Browns do. So I don't think they're going to have any issues there. I think the problem for Cincinnati is that they're not going to be able to run the ball. You know, if they stop Cleveland, I doubt that they're going to be able to run the ball with Fred the Sled in there, pulling. Yeah, so I think that's the biggest issue with them. And I think when Cincy can't run the ball, they're not going to be operating at their best level offensively. And when they're not operating at their best level offensively, they just don't have much of a chance to win, unfortunately. Now, Phillip Rivers will give you opportunities. $25 million for him sounded crazy when they did it. And it seems even more crazy when you look at Cam Newton making $1 million for the Patriots. How did everybody let that happen? I don't know. Sometimes Twitter talks themselves into stupid stuff like this. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, at this point, right, if you're the coach, wouldn't you rather have Jameis? Because Jameis at least had them 30 touchdowns. Phillip Rivers might throw 30 interceptions and like 15 touchdowns. So you at least got the production with Jameis. You got a defense that can overcome those things. But nonetheless, they made that mistake at the quarterback position. They might switch back to Jacoby Brissett, who might be a better option. I don't know. They got to figure something out because that interception that Phillip Rivers threw, this is still stuck in my mind. One of the worst interceptions I've ever seen a veteran quarterback throw. Peyton Manning threw some bad ones, but that's just because he's Peyton Manning. He'll do that. He'll throw some bad ones. But that was just like you saw it, you read it, and you still threw it. I don't know how you like that. I don't know how Phillip Rivers survives film review on that. But anyways, so yeah, he can't throw himself. He can't throw the Bengals into this game. Will the Bengals be able to capitalize? I don't think so. I think this defense is real. I think their secondary is real. I think they're going to be able to get after Joe Burrow. I think they're going to be able to stop the run. Bengals fans, y'all know I'm not a Bengals hater. I errantly picked the Bengals to beat the Ravens last week. I just don't think this is a game you guys can win. Just because even if you get those opportunities, I just don't know if you're going to be able to run the ball to the level that the Bengals need to run the ball at in order to put Joe Burrow in the right position where he's not asked to do so much. And if you ask Joe Burrow to do a lot against this secondary, he's going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's not going to be great for him. And I hope they don't, because I would love his confidence not to start to get dragged down by the stretch of games he's going to go in.
Definitely, for sure. So I appreciate you guys in the comments and stuff like that. But I'm gonna take up for my co-host Sonny. There's no AFC North talk without him, man. There's no AFC North talk without him. This is the crew. This is how we ride, and he's a great analyst for sure. And he brought us all together. There would be no AFC North talk without him. With that said, Sonny, my guy, give me your prediction on this game.
Yo, I think this is gonna be a game where if the Colts are a good D-line, right? That's their bread and butter. Similar to the Eagles, as we were talking, that's where their defense lines up, which sucks for the Bengals because the Bengals O-line has not looked good. If the Colts can generate a pressure without blitzing, Bengals are done. If the Colts can stop the run without having to stock the box, Bengals are done. Those two things could happen, right? There's not an indictment on Joe Burrow. I think if there's some sort of a running game, I'm not saying Mixon has to go for over 100, 120 yards. If Mixon can just float into the 80s or 90 yards, right, that will open play action, and that would allow some of their receivers to produce some cushion or to have some one-on-one matchups and win those one-on-one matchups. I do think the Bengals receivers can win the one-on-one matchup, but with no time and no running game, that cannot happen. So saying that, look, the key here is that on the Bengals side, can they block for Mixon, and can they produce a pass block for Burrow? On the other side, that defense played well against Baltimore. That defense had looked better. And where the Bengals are usually weaker, which is linebackers, the Colts are not a running team per se. The Colts are, let's see what Phillip Rivers can do, right? Let's see. And then Phillip Rivers sometimes makes a play there, right? And this is how he makes $25 million, because he will make a play here and there. But I think the Bengals can counteract that, right? I think the Bengals can force River to make that mistake, and that's where the game will pivot. I actually think I'm gonna give the advantage to the Bengals, because I think the Bengals got hammered, slap in the face last week. This is not I'm not trying to pound on the Bengals. I just think it was a wake-up call. I think the Bengals came, even though the record wasn't a winning record, they should have come to Baltimore feeling good about themselves because they have played well. Last week, that wasn't their game. So this week, they can go and say, look, we play well against Jacksonville. This team lost to Jacksonville. There's no way. We cannot come defeated. We cannot say we don't have a chance. I do think they have a chance. I think this is a field goal game, and I'm going to give the advantage to the Bengals. I'm hoping the Bengals come with the right scheme to protect Burrow and to run the ball. And if that happens, I think that's where the edge will be to the Bengals. If they cannot produce a good pass blocking or pass rushing, or run blocking, then it's not going to be a close game. So either the Bengals win by a slight margin, or it's going to be, like a 10 or 14-point game to the other side, to the Colts.
Yeah, I think Sonny hit on something perfectly there. He talked about Joe Mixon and getting this offense running. Obviously, Joe Mixon is key to that offense, and he had a good game against the Colts, and he's going to be key for that happening. But if they can't let that happen, like he said, the Bengals are going to be in trouble. So I think if they can do that, they definitely have a shot there. But with that being said, let's toss it to my man, Tony.
Yeah, this is a tough matchup for the Bengals because, like everyone's talked about, you want this to be a bounce back, right? You want to find out, what does Burrow have coming off of what was definitely his worst game as a pro? How can he bounce back? And it's really tough that, by the way, your bounce back game is going up against the best defense in football right now. And the team is frustrated. It's, the right to be frustrated because they've lost a lot of games by one score. And then they had such a bad game against a division rival in Baltimore. I think what's the problem is they're likely going to face the same adversity in this game in that they're going to face the same kind of pass rush. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't know if Justin Houston's going to play in this game, but they're going to get a pass rush in this game. The Colts are. And then the other problem for the Bengals that they have offensively right now, look, we ranked this Bengals wide receiver core as one of the top in the division, right there with Cleveland. In fact, there was an argument about whether or not they were 1 or 2. The problem is what we're seeing right now out of that wide receiver core is not close to 1 because A.J. Green doesn't look anything like who we thought A.J. Green was going to be. And then John Ross, who we thought, hey, this guy was coming along at some points. Maybe he can be a nice outside threat for them. He's fallen out of favor completely with the coaching staff. He's been inactive since week 2. So they have Tyler Boyd, and I like Tyler Boyd. Obviously Tyler Boyd is wide receiver 1 for them, but then you have a rookie on the other side with T. Higgins. And then you've got Auden Tate as your number 3. And I think, when you're looking at a wide receiver core that's Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Auden Tate, well, that's a far cry from what we thought this crew was going to be. And so when you're facing defenses as good as Indianapolis and they can take away your number 1 option, which is Tyler Boyd, and all of a sudden it's down to T. Higgins and Auden Tate and then Drew Sample at tight end to be your threats in the passing game, just makes things a little too easy for the defense, right? And that's why I think Burrow is going to struggle again this week. And then I look at the defensive side. I know we talk about Phillip Rivers, right? And yes, I agree. If Phillip Rivers goes out and plays like he did in the second half of that Cleveland game, well, then the Bengals are going to have a chance. The problem I have, though, is DJ Reader is out for the year now. Or he's on IR. I don't know if he's out for the year, but he's on IR. He's out for the year. Yeah. Tough loss, really tough loss for them because they've already dealt with injuries to Mike Daniels and Geno Atkins all year, right? That defensive line has already had trouble, and DJ Reader was their best defensive lineman. I could easily see this game being much more about Jonathan Taylor, a young rookie who's getting more and more reps for them, and they're really trusting in him in that running game. I could see this being a game much more about Jonathan Taylor going off, much more so than Phillip Rivers having a bad game in that way. So I like the Colts in this one. I probably like them, by a lot, 10, 15 points, something like that. I just think the Colts are a better team right now, and it's unfortunate that the Bengals are coming off of this bad loss. They need to respond, and it's just a bad matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Quincy hit on some points there. One thing that actually came through today is there was a lot of talk about A.J. Green, obviously, in the Ravens game. There was some frustration on the sideline. There's been some things going on there. He actually spoke with the media today, said that he does want to remain a Bengal, and he's simply just been frustrated with how the season has gone on. And I actually had to do some research on to what's going on. I actually did some film analysis last night looking at the plays. And honestly, it doesn't look like A.J. Green has lost a step. It just looks like Joe Burrow and him are not on the same page. You see a lot of passes that are being thrown past him, just a lot of them not being on the same page. So I actually walked away from that optimistic, looking at it and saying, hey, well, maybe these guys just don't have chemistry. Maybe they'll get it going. But obviously, A.J. is saying that he's learning a new offense. He's still knocking off some of that rust. So hopefully we can see it in this game. But with Xavier Rhodes in that secondary, another tough matchup like Tony is saying. But also kicking it over to some other NFL news outside of the AFC North, LeVeon Bell is a free agent right now. And if I'm not mistaken, he still hasn't chosen where he's going. I think he's down to 2 final teams now. I think it's going to be either the Chiefs or the Dolphins. It looks like he eliminated the Bills from that. Some people thought that he could possibly go to the Steelers or the Ravens before it came out where his choices were at. What does that mean for the AFC, being that he could potentially join either the Dolphins or the Chiefs? Me personally, I think that the Chiefs would be just scary, right? Because you're adding him to an offense with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. You still have Edwards-Helaire there. But the other thing that you forget is this is a guy that when he was in Pittsburgh was able to line up at receiver. And this is a guy that's going to a guy like Andy Reid that's going to know exactly how to use him. And the crazy thing is that him and Helaire can essentially like share reps and stuff like that. So very scary for me. I think Kansas City, if I'm in his position, if I want to win and go to an offense that's going to utilize my skill set, that's where I would go. But Sonny, what are your thoughts on potentially where Le'Veon Bell will land with all of this madness going on with him being released by the Jets?
I see. The thing is for Bell, I think he is about the dough, which is fine. I had no beef with that. And if he's looking to make the next contract, I think he will be RB2 with KC. And with RB2 and KC, he will still have production, obviously, behind that great offense. But if he goes to Miami, and everybody loves Miami, and he kills it, right? Let's say he produces. I mean, he doesn't have to be top rusher, but he produces well onto a team that looks better than what a lot of people might thought. I love their draft coming this year. And I think they're having a lot of building blocks. If he goes to Miami, he produces well, Now next year's a free agent. I think he can ask and conduct for more money. If he goes to Kansas City, which is fine, it will be more like, yo, at this point, what I want is win, right? And I'm willing to take less money. And I don't know if that's Bell's MO. He hasn't shown me that before. I think in Kansas City he can be good, especially if you think about it. I said before that KC, when they were on the top, it was when Hunt was there, right? And then CEH came to be the Hunt of that missing piece. Well, if CEH gets injured, their running back situation goes back to meh. Oh, with Le'Veon Bell, you still have an elite runner, an elite catcher. And I think it will be, not only they bring a great player, they also bring great depth. So
yeah, definitely. So another super chat in the comments from my man William Coltrane. Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year. Steelers hate week. Sorry, Tony.
He's not really. William is not really sorry. He's not really sorry.
Real quick though,
it's hate week. You don't say sorry on hate week.
For sure.
On Le'Veon Bell.
Go ahead, Quincy.
It's kind of obvious he's going to Miami, right? Like I think that's the obvious thing he's about to do here. I mean, this is where he spent most of his time in Pittsburgh, right? When in Miami, he just likes being there. Look, he spent 2 years in New York hating life, hating his coach, and his coach hating him after they signed him to that contract. If he really wanted to go into a position to where he would want to win or be put in the best position to win, he would have either went back to Pittsburgh where they know how to use him, right, or like to New England, because Bill Belichick can probably get something out of him. But he's between Kansas City and Miami, and something just tells me he's probably just going to go with what's more comfortable. That's Miami. He already has a house there. There's a ton of complications when it comes to moving during this whole situation.
Yeah.
And he already owns a house in Miami. So if he has to be somewhere for a year, he's probably going to go to Miami. Now, is Le'Veon Bell going to make that big of an impact? I don't know. I really don't think it.
I think
moves the needle.
Healthy.
I don't think it moves the needle any more than when Leonard Fournette signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, it was kind of a big deal, but it wasn't like, oh my God, look at Tampa Bay now. It's just like, this is a guy that, the Jets thought weren't good enough to be on the roster, and the Jets might go 0-16 this year. I know that's a hot take, right? But, I just don't think Le'Veon Bell, is he going to be somebody who could produce for somebody? Yeah. Is he going to be somebody that's going to keep you up at night because the Chiefs got him? I mean, come on now. It's not going to happen because they already got Patrick Mahomes. Like, everything you're worried about the Chiefs, they already got. Like, Le'Veon Bell's just added candy. It's not really anything that's going to make them much more dangerous. They can only get so much more dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah. Here's where I come down on this one. Obviously, I watched Le'Veon Bell for a lot of years, and Steeler fans hate Le'Veon Bell. I started tweeting as soon as he got cut, please bring him back. And of course, every Steeler fan's coming at me with, you're an idiot. We don't want Le'Veon back. He's terrible. He's trash. Get rid of him. All this, it's like we just forgot what he did. And I get some of it is the way that he left the organization, right? He had that whole holdout where he lied to the team and, made it seem like he was coming back. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he did. So, but here's the thing. So people talk about this like, oh, Le'Veon just wants the money, right? I've heard this. I actually did a Tuesday thing on Locked On Steelers where I argued with the guy on there about how I don't think Le'Veon wants the money anymore. This is not a move about Le'Veon wants the money. If Le'Veon wanted the money, well, it's pretty easy. Just hanging out in New York. They gave you the most money anyone's going to give you, right? And all your money there, by the way, is tied up in these guarantees year after year. Okay, so just hang out there, do your thing, and get paid. He leaves because I think he hates the situation there. He hates Adam Gase. And by the way, Adam Gase has a terrible track record of having good players and getting the least out of them. This is a guy who had Ryan Tannehill in Miami. Okay, now see what Ryan Tannehill's doing in Tennessee. He had Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker all of a sudden in Miami looks very good. And the fact that he got the least out of Jarvis Landry, same thing. The fact that he got the least out of Le'Veon Bell in New York shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. So where does he go now? Well, I think if he goes to Miami, it's interesting for him because I thought he was going to take a 1-year prove-it deal, and I thought the Steelers could actually afford to give it to him. But the Steelers are not interested in at this point. It seems like the Chiefs are. The Chiefs, I think, are the best destination for him. But I think the Chiefs are going to give him that 1-year prove-it deal, right? Because the Chiefs are, hey, let's win the Super Bowl again, and then we're going to hand the reins over to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon are similar, right? They can catch the ball in the backfield, right? They're dynamic players with the ball in their hand. But Le'Veon, you can trust in more situations. Edwards-Helaire is a rookie. Do they trust him fully in pass protection, right? They trust him on the goal line. He's not good on the goal line right now, by the way. You can trust LeVeon in every situation as a runner. Short yardage, third down, early downs, right? You can line him out wide. I mean, he does everything. So he'd be very good in that offense. I think Miami, though, is going to come in and probably offer him a longer-term deal because they have a ton of cap space, and they could probably give him a more sure bet right now rather than him having to go to a 1-year prove-it deal. Hey, I can get another similar deal. Maybe I'd rather do that. And like Quincy said, he loves Miami as a whole. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes. I think he's still got some left in the tank, but he'd have to go to a contender to prove it. He's going to Miami. They don't have a they don't have a running back right now. Myles Gaskin's their best guy. He'll start right away. But I don't know that like Quincy said, I don't know that he moves the needle to put Miami any closer to the playoffs than they are right now.
No, I have to agree. And again, my guy, the Trip, won with a $2 donation. He says that he thinks that Le'Veon Bell goes to the Bears and becomes their bell cow, which is a joke
See,
there.
My fantasy team has David Montgomery, and I do not need Le'Veon Bell. I need my David Montgomery. The 12 points he ekes out for me every week is what I need.
Hey, real quick, I need to do my I hate Benny Snell rant for the week because of fantasy football. Every time I saw Benny Snell run the ball at the 4-yard line about to score a touchdown, I was like, you better not. And then he fell down. I was like, yeah, that's what Benny Snell does. He does not do anything productive. You know, he got his job took from some dude from Rutgers or Maryland that sucked in the Big Ten. Like, come on now.
Did everybody get Chase Claypool this week? Did everybody? Chase Claypool was on waivers in everyone's league this week. Did everyone get him? I got him.
I did not get him, unfortunately. With everything going on, it's just been kind of a whirlwind. I know it was different with waivers clearing this morning, so I know that he was the hot guy on that list. Yeah. But I think just in closing for the Le'Veon Bell situation, I think this is a guy that cares about the money. I mean, this is a guy that was willing to sit out an entire season, that was on a team that was competing for potentially a Super Bowl or playoffs, and he was just like, you know what, I'm just going to sit this season out. And I think that the other thing with the Florida thing is, me and Tony know, no state taxes. That's so right. If they offer him a nice deal, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you want to win, you're going to go and sign with the Chiefs. If you want to go to the Super Bowl, you want that. If you want to go to Miami, you want money. And I think that that's what this guy is saying right now. I think it's going to be a bad look for his image, especially with him sitting out that season. If he does sign with Miami, yeah, you're going to have fun, but you're not going to win. And for a guy that doesn't have a Super Bowl on his resume, that kind of makes it look like you care about money more than winning at this point. But Tony did make some great points there. That's just my view from it. But now we're into what you guys all came here for. The Browns and the Steelers. We're gonna have to. I'm wondering how I should go with this. Let's start with Sonny first because we have to leave Quincy and Tony for the end. We'll see. I know. We'll see how that goes. So, Sonny, what are your thoughts on this game?
Absolute thorn in this matchup, man. I've been watching. I tried to dove in deep in the stats. I've been actually watched too many games from the Browns this year, and also from the Steelers. But look, after. I read so many stats, but I don't want to bore you with stats. What I want is to think about this. Yeah, that's true. That's Tony's job. But what I was thinking as I was just reading and diving into the stats and just going back to some of the games I watch is think about what the Steelers are doing good on offense. They just broke up, right? Before that, the Steelers offense was but against the Eagles, they had a hell of a game. And Claypool's coming out party. We spoke about that on Tuesday. Well, I think that is problematic for the Browns, obviously, because the Browns, even their best corner, right, Ward, which I like a lot, and against the Ravens, Ward is a perfect corner to put against a guy like Hollywood Brown or to be honest, pretty much any of our receivers. But if Claypool really comes out, and he's a rookie, so I don't know how dependable. This could be a great game, and then this week could be a coming to earth day. But Claypool is a very bad matchup to Ward because even if Ward plays him perfectly, if Ben throws it in the right spot, Claypool can make that catch. This is just even with his jump, even with his speed, Claypool has the ability to box Ward out, right? Now, I'm not saying that is what determines this game. I think on offense for the Steelers, they should try to feed Claypool, right? And that should open Juju. I actually don't think I actually don't think Claypool will have a great game. Wait. I don't think Claypool will have that great of a game. I think Claypool will be the how do you say this word? He will be the like the guinea pig, right? For then Juju to have a better game. Yeah, thank you. So saying that, I think what the Browns need to do is on the other side of that defense, they need to pressure Ben, right? Because for Claypool to have a good chance, Ben needs some time. And we know the Browns can bring it. Now, the Steelers have a good O-line, but the Browns can bring it. So if the Steelers let Myles Garrett loose, then they had no chance. They had no chance. Because for Claypool to have some chance, they need some time. Now, if I flip it to the other side, I think what the Steelers need to do and the Browns need to bring the running game. If for some reason the Steelers are able to control that running game and just hold the running game to a pedestrian game. I don't think they can hold it to just nothing, to a pedestrian game, and force that Browns offense to be more of a one-dimensional offense, then they have a shot. Because I don't think the Steelers secondary can control this Browns passing attack unless they make it one-dimensional and now they can just play in cue to the pass. Saying all this, because I don't want to take too much time, because I want to have the time for Quincy and Tony to just debate this to the end. I've been bouncing back and forth who's going to win this match. And I'm going with the Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns will generate just enough pressure for Big Ben to not be as effective. And I don't like what I saw from the Steelers defense concerns me, because I believe the Browns offense is way better than what Philly produced last week. So I think it's going to be tight. I can see the Steelers winning this game. I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout. I'm going to go and say the Browns by 7, but I can easily see the Steelers by 7. I think it's a matchup. It's just going to be tight. Is whoever makes the mistake loses the game. Will Baker be clean? If Baker is clean, which is what I'm expecting, I think Browns by a touchdown.
Sonny, you're not wrong when you have difficulty picking this game, because these are two solid teams. I think that the Browns are actually somewhat better, but I think what gives the edge somewhat to Pittsburgh too is the quarterback play. And when I was watching that Browns game, I was like, they're about to take off on the Colts. And the reason that they did not was because of Baker Mayfield. And I think it's because they kind of got away from the Dalton diet, the Andy Dalton diet, leaning on that run game, making responsible passes and stuff like that. And when you put it in a situation where Baker has to throw multiple times a game, and if this turns into a shootout, that's not good for the Browns. The only issue is, even though the Browns obviously are the number 1 rushing attack in the league, the issue is they lost Nick Chubb. Now, was last week just them going up against a good Colts defense? Sure, it probably was. They're one of the top defenses in the league. The issue is the Steelers are also decent at stopping the run as well, which if they force the Browns to become a one-dimensional offense, then it really hurts them, because even though the Browns are one of the top offenses in the league, they are not great when it comes to passing the ball. But this is the thing. The Steelers just proved last week against Carson Wentz and an Eagles offense that literally has, I don't even know the guy that you guys were talking about as their receiver, and this Browns team has weapons. They've got Jarvis Landry. They've got Odell Beckham Jr. They've got Austin Hooper, who made some plays. If they can play like they did in the first half of that game last week, this will be a good game. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game as well. I think some people looked at what was going on, and these are two good offenses. Obviously, we just saw what Chase Claypool was able to do. They've got Juju as well. I'm not sure which of those guys, and I think that it's probably going to be Claypool since he plays on the outside and Juju likes to play in the slot. Denzel Ward is probably going to be on Chase Claypool, but these guys have a lot of weapons. You talk about Deontay Johnson. I don't know what that practice report is looking like if he's going to be back. And then you got McLeod. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a game. I think if you are watching this channel, this is going to be a game that you're going to be paying attention to for sure. I want to pick the Browns. I really want to pick the Browns. Baker Mayfield has me concerned about this game. But even with that said, I'm going to go with the Browns. I'm going to go with the Browns because I think that Myles Garrett is is going to be in for a big game this weekend. And I think that Browns offensive line is going to be the X factor because the Steelers, we said this coming into the season, they have the best defensive line in this division, right? But I think the Browns possibly have the best offensive line. And I'm going to take a cue from my man Sonny that says the game is won in the trenches. And if they can keep them off of Baker Mayfield, if they can open lanes for them to be able to run this ball, I think that the Browns could win. But I don't think that it's definitive that the Browns win this game. If Big Ben comes out and plays like he did last week on fire, I think the Steelers could win this game. This is for the division here, but right now I can't go against the Browns with what they're doing right now and the streak that they've been on throughout this season. So with that said, let's turn it over to my man Tony.
There's a super chat.
Super
chat. Sorry about that. The Trib. Shout out to the Trib tonight. My guy Chase is the DK, and I think he's saying the DK Metcalf of the draft. He's here to stay.
I would agree with that.
I got the Browns winning close. Browns can run over
agree with that.
Run on the 2000 Ravens. I guess that defense. So there's that. Big Ben,
that's not.
Big Garrett.
They can do what?
I don't know about that. That's a bit of a stretch.
That was
but
a stretch, yeah.
that was a bit of a stretch there. A little bit of a stretch. But with that said, I know Tony's not liking that we picked this.
Oh, I love it
this way.
I love it.
But
because
Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, let us know what's going on.
This is not just Browns versus Steelers, right? I mean, we've spent this entire offseason talking about how the Steelers, everyone's telling the Ben is done, the Steeler team, they're 6-10, right? Or they're not making the playoffs this year, right? This is a game, the AFC North against the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I mean, everybody's cheering. Everyone wants to see this Steeler team fail. I know, Sonny, it's true. It is true. Okay, so
let me just say something real quick. I think as a Ravens fan, I think a lot of Ravens fans will love if the Steelers come to Baltimore undefeated, and they're the ones to give you your first loss.
A lot of Steeler fans love that too.
So
but,
I don't think that is necessarily to continue.
Okay, what I love about this game and this matchup, right, is this is what I grew up on. Steelers Browns was the first rivalry that I got attached to. In 1993. Is when I first started watching football. The first game I can actually remember. It's funny you guys bring up DK Metcalf because I really don't like his father, Eric Metcalf, because Eric Metcalf returned not one, but 2 punts for touchdowns in the first game that I can remember. Steelers Browns 1993. In fact, he returned a punt for a touchdown 2 minutes to go in the game. The Browns win that game. The Browns were the first team I really hated. So I'm glad now that here we are. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this matchup. Right, this is going to be a classic Steelers-Browns game between two good teams, right? This is not baby brother Browns trying to upset, big brother Steelers. These are two legitimately good teams facing on Sunday, two contenders in the AFC, and the better team's going to win. I cannot wait. There's a lot of intangibles in this game, especially as a Steeler fan where you go, this is a bigger game for the Browns than it is for the Steelers. I think we can all agree on that. For the Browns, this is we got to get over the hump, right? We got to get over the Steelers. For the Steelers, they're playing the Browns. And one thing that's going to get said about this game, I mean, it's the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger is 23-2-1 against the Browns. It's just, you know what I mean? I get it.
You're expert at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that will all change on Sunday, obviously, if the Browns win this game. Now, the one matchup in this game that people talk about, which is always silly, but they're going to do it, which is TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett. Now, these two players will not be on the field at the same time at all in this game. For 0 snaps, they will be on the field at the same time. But it is intriguing because they're both playing at Defensive Player of the Year levels, right? TJ Watt has 4.5 sacks through 4 games, and Garrett has 6 sacks through 5 games. I mean, they both have 20 pressures. They're playing at insanely high levels, and I do think that while it's silly to talk about TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett, you can boil it down somewhat to that matchup in that whatever team makes the biggest mistakes, whatever team turns the ball over more, I think that's it. I mean, these are two opportunistic defenses, and the team that makes the most mistakes in this game is probably going to lose. You don't have to look at the final score. Just look at the turnover battle. Winner wins the game. I think you put it there. When I look at the Browns offense and the Steelers defense, look, this is the Browns are a great running team. I mean, they're the best rushing team the Steelers will have faced this year. They're the best offensive line the Steelers will have faced this year. But let's give credit where the credit is due here. The Steelers defensive unit has been very good against the run this year. Remember, they held Saquon Barkley to less than 1 yard per carry. Okay, they're actually the second best run defense in football right now. And in fact, if you go back to last week's game, where it's seemingly that Miles Sanders had this great game, he had 80 yards on 11 carries, but he had 74-yard run. Now, I'm not going to take away the 74-yard run, but I will say this: his other 10 carries, He had 6 yards. That's another guy who less than 1 yard per carry outside of one long one. So the Steelers are going to have their hands full, certainly with this Browns team and this Browns rushing attack, but they may be ready for it. What they may not be ready for, though, is the discipline that it's going to take to not just stop the Browns rushing attack, but work off of that with the play action. And this is going to be a game all about whether or not Vince Williams and Devin Bush get their eyes, and Terrell Edmonds as well, get their eyes caught in the backfield, and then Kevin Stefanski start doing that play action that he likes. This Steeler defense has had some holes in it, no doubt about it, in the secondary. And if they start working that play action and those guys get their eyes caught in the backfield, Baker Mayfield can have himself a big day. The other big key for this game to watch for is how often do the Steelers feel comfortable staying in their base defense, meaning their base 3-4 and not in nickel. Their base 3-4 defense is their best run defense. When Tyson Alualu was on the field, the Steelers are averaging like 1 yard per carry given up. It's insane.
They're really good there.
Yeah, they're great. But if they don't feel comfortable staying in base and they come to nickel, well, then the Browns can have some success running the ball, and obviously it's all going to feed off of that. So interesting things to watch there. And also remember, with Baker Mayfield, right? This team wants to put the ball in Baker's hands, and we've seen some guys, even like Jeff Driscoll, have some success against this secondary. We even saw Carson Wentz do it last week. But Carson Wentz did it all on third down, and these were some third and long situations. I think the Steelers, with how good they get pressure on quarterbacks, are going to have as much of a hard time getting off the field on third down as they are getting Baker Mayfield in this offense into those kind of third and long situations. This is a Browns offense that's built around getting you into third and short, third and manageable for Baker to easily convert and move the football. And this has been a very effective Browns offense. I think they've scored on their first possession, 3 out of the last 4 games. So they start hot, they start well, and the Steelers are going to have to limit that because this is a Steeler offense that does not start hot. They have not scored on their first. I think they scored 3 points on their first possession this entire year. And this whole Steeler offense can be boiled down to one player. That player is Myles Garrett. Okay, Myles Garrett, fantastic player right now, and he eats Alejandro Villanueva alive. I mean, the left tackle for the Steelers has his hands full every time they're in this matchup. Villanueva gets killed. So that's going to mean the Steelers offensively are going to have to shift things around a little bit. They're going to have to play a tight end and probably chip him a little bit, or just leave Connor in protection, not just for a potential blitz, but to just make sure that Villanueva has some cover there on the left side. That could leave them open to some blitzing that the Browns want to do. The Browns aren't a huge blitz team, but in this game, they may get some free rushers if Connor's eye is on Myles Garrett and not on the rusher coming through. Now, there's another way the Steelers can limit Garrett, though, and that is to use more of this jet motion that we've seen. That motion's been a big part of this offense this year. We saw them do that with Ray McLeod, the big run that he had last week. Actually, Claypool scored a touchdown off of it. If they can do some of that motion, the jet sweep motion, and get Myles Garrett thinking about setting his edge in the run game and not so much about rushing the quarterback every play, that's a way the Steelers can have some success. But remember, the big problem for Myles Garrett is not going to be on first and second down. It's on those kind of 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 plays when there's no end around coming, right? Myles Garrett is keying in on Ben Roethlisberger. That's going to be a problem. The Steelers have to solve it because Myles Garrett can wreck this game for them. But the one thing I like for the Steelers, the one matchup I really like for the Steelers in this game is Ben Roethlisberger versus that defense. I talked about this on Tuesday, showed you guys a Ben Roethlisberger quick passing attack, diagnosed before the play, and attack a defense where it's weak. This Browns team is weak in the middle of the field, and the Steelers are very strong in the middle of the field. Ben Roethlisberger has 326 yards passing between 0 and 10 yards in the middle of the field, 2 touchdowns, 80% completion percentage in the middle of the field. That's where I expect the Steelers are going to have success. Remember I talked about let Ben cook? I am 100% let Ben cook in this game. Randy Fichtner, enough with the run, pass. Enough with we're going to establish the running game early. Let Ben Roethlisberger cook in this game. Don't be afraid of Myles Garrett. Let him do his thing. I expect Juju. I expect Deontay Johnson. I know you guys are high on Claypool. I don't know that I expect Claypool to have a big game. I expect actually Deontay Johnson might have a bigger stat sheet than Chase Claypool should Deontay stay healthy. But look, this is a good game between two close teams. I'm not going to predict a Steeler blowout or anything. I know I said Steelers by 100. I was obviously joking. This is a field goal matchup. Vegas has this right. They have Steelers by 3, 3.5. I think I'm right there with them. I think I'm Steelers by 3. Two good teams, and I can't wait for it on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. I also forgot to put in there that Baker Mayfield apparently is nursing a rib injury. I'm sure that Quincy can expound on that because it seemed like last week that may just be the Stefanski thing to kind of do when it comes to any kind of injury on there. But with that being said, my man, Quincy, what are your thoughts coming into this game?
Yeah, so a big narrative coming into this game, and it's been a narrative for the Browns for like 4 straight weeks, is this is a test for the Cleveland Browns. I think even on this show, we've been like, well, this is going to be a test for the Browns offensive line against Washington, or, what's their character in that locker room when they played week 2 after getting blown out by the Ravens. Week 3, when they played Dallas, can they outscore a good offense? Week 4, can they beat another good team? Can they beat another good defense? They have passed all those tests. Now, I'm going to bring up some stats that I think are peculiar about some of the Steelers' best players. We talk about TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, legitimate, one of the best football players. I would say he's probably the best all-round defensive player in football, in my opinion. He can cover, he can tackle, he can run defend, he can pass rush. He can literally do it all. He's much like his brother, but a little bit more athletic. He's a really good player. We look at his production through 3 weeks. We see, he played Cameron Fleming at right, because remember, TJ lines up on the right side. Cameron Fleming against the Giants. He has a 60 PFF grade. DeMar Dotson, 64 PFF grade. Titus Howard, 59 PFF grade. Dominated those guys. Absolutely dominated those guys. Week 4 versus Lane Johnson, a right tackle we've all heard of. 70 PFF grade for Lane Johnson. Do you know that TJ Watt's PFF grade went from 90s all across the board to 60 for that game?
Yeah, but you know that they had him. He played friggin' middle linebacker at parts of this game. They played TJ Watt at middle linebacker for parts. It was a very bad game for TJ Watt when he lined up at middle linebacker. It was awful.
Sure,
I don't know what Keith Butler was doing.
Sure. I'm sure the Pittsburgh Steelers are just a poorly coached team, and that's why he didn't have a great game.
Defensively, we got some questions.
Look, I'm from Cleveland. I know poor coaching when I see it. Y'all ain't got it. Secondly, we talk about that run D. Now, that run D is good. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I do think they're vulnerable.
However,
I think they're vulnerable because they haven't played a single good run offensive line this season. Like every single one has been like in the 20s. And the one time they played a team that could run the ball well in Philadelphia that has like a decent run, they gave up 16 carries, 94 yards, 5.9 out. Hey, it was one long touchdown run, but they also did give up 2 touchdowns on the ground. Everything else is fantastic. I mean, they have 2 games where they gave up like a yard per carry here. They're really good against some bad teams, and that's interesting. Now, here's why I say this. Everybody's saying the Cleveland Browns is being tested this week. The test is not for the Browns. This game, if the Browns lose it, they play a lot softer of a schedule than Pittsburgh. The Browns don't need this game as much as Pittsburgh does. The Browns fans need this game more than Pittsburgh, right? To feel like we can get over the hump and win in Pittsburgh. Like, it's more important to our fans than it is actually to the actual layout of the season, because if Pittsburgh loses this game, then they play Baltimore at Baltimore. Then they play Tennessee at Tennessee. And now you're looking down the barrel of 4-3. So I think it's actually a bigger game for the Steelers than the Browns. As crazy as that sounds, because of just how the schedule is going to lay out. And I think Mike Tomlin is fully aware of that. This is a game he must win. You got to win this home game in this stretch. So that being said, we go in and we look at the actual game today. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. We know that's going to happen. The Browns have not stopped a single quarterback this year. The question is, is Ben Roethlisberger going to play a clean game, and can the Browns force him to not play a clean game? Myles Garrett has like 7 sacks, 11 pressures in like 5 games versus the Steelers. So he's been kind of a sure thing against Villanova. It's just been an issue for him. Villanava's long but kind of stiff. Myles can bend. That's just been an issue for him as long as – and actually, it's funny. Villanova's 2 best games against the Browns are the 2 games Myles Garrett hadn't played. But, can Myles Garrett get some pressure? Can he do that? Can you force Ben into mistakes? I think the bigger thing for the Cleveland Browns is going to be a play of Denzel, Terrence Mitchell, and Kevin Johnson on the inside. Kevin Johnson's the slot corner. Can he take away some of those juju drag routes? And can Terrence Mitchell and Denzel Ward take away the sidelines? Can they just get rid of those X receivers and force Ben to put a lot more of his passes in that middle of the field area? The reason that's important is because when you say let Ben cook, one of the things about letting Ben cook is those middle of the field interceptions. If you look at Ben's career, he loves to throw middle of the field interceptions. He's really good in middle of the field sometimes. He can get those touchdowns. Obviously, he's Big Ben, and he's played at a plus 2018 level at this point. He's been really good. But if you can get him to throw in the middle of the field, Yeah, you're going to get cooked for 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Andrew Sadeo's going to get burnt at some point in this game by Chase Claypool. I have no doubts about it. But you might be able to get 1 or 2 interceptions on him, and that's going to be the difference in this game. Now, if you look at the offense for the Cleveland Browns versus this defense, I think that their pass rush, I think the Steelers' pass rush is going to meet a pretty good match here because the Browns have really good tackles and they have really good blocking tight ends if those tackles can't hold them. Jack Conklin's probably going to be the best, is playing the best out of all the right tackles that TJ Watt has played. Now, maybe they're going to put TJ at middle linebacker again, right? I don't know.
They better not. My goodness.
That would be dumb. And then with Bud Dupree and his matchup against Jedrick Wills, I feel fine about that. The Browns are really strong in an interior defensive line, and as pass blockers, they held up really well against DeForest Buckner and that Colts interior. And I think the Colts interior has better personnel than Pittsburgh does. I understand Aluwalu's been good, Cam Hayward and everybody else. I'm not disrespecting them. I just think the Colts have the best interior defensive line in all of football. Maybe Baltimore might get there if some of those inside players can play at the level that we're used to them playing at. But I think they have the best interior defensive line. I think they already held up against that. So I think they'll be fine when it comes to passing the ball. Baker Mayfield, is he going to be able to stay turnover free? I don't know, because I think he's going to have to attack the middle of the field. And that's where I worry about Baker Mayfield throwing those interceptions in the middle of the field. When he's on the sidelines, he's great. He's efficient. He's Baker Mayfield that we all know and love. But when he has to attack the middle of the field, that's when he can't see stuff. That's when people sneak up on him. And that's where he starts to make mistakes. You see those tip ball interceptions. All those things happen with Baker Mayfield. But I think he's going to have to attack him. I think the Browns match up well with Pittsburgh, quite honestly. I think Cleveland is a better team than Pittsburgh, quite honestly. The fact they're coming into this game and the X factor is intimidation. Are the Browns going to be intimidated by Heinz Field yet again, as they've been intimidated for the last 20 years? Are they going to let Pittsburgh dominate them early and get all hyped up and be like, oh, it's the Steelers, we're the Browns, we can't do nothing? Are they going to do that yet again? I mean, there's been a lot of misery in Heinz Field. I did a video earlier this week where every time the Browns look like they're going to be decent, Heinz Field is where it dies. It died in 2003 in the playoffs. It died in 2007 because that's where we lost our chance at the playoffs, because both teams ended up 10-6 that year. The Steelers got the tiebreaker because of Heinz Field. And they clinched 0-16 at Heinz Field. Where better, right? Where better than Corey Coleman to drop a ball to set up an easy field goal to guarantee 0-16 versus what's the guy he played in the XFL?
Landry Jones.
Landry freaking,
my boy.
It's always been miserable in Heinz Field.
I love it.
That's what the Browns are battling. And I don't know if it's the team or mentally that they're battling, or maybe they got some secret juice in Heinz Field that just makes it miserable for the Browns. That's what they're battling. If they come out here and they play a regular football game like they've played the last 4 weeks, I think they should beat Pittsburgh. I think there's no reason they should lose. I think they're a better football team than Pittsburgh, and I think they match up well against Pittsburgh. If they come into this game and they're doing all the Cleveland stuff, and and then Jack Conklin's just letting TJ Watt eat his lunch for no reason, yeah, they're gonna lose because that's what Pittsburgh does. But at this team, and I have more confidence than I've had in the last 20 years that this is a Browns team that can go into Pittsburgh and not just like buckle underneath the pressure, because this team is not better than you. They are relying on you to be intimidated. They are relying on Baker Mayfield to have a meltdown. They are relying on this team not to show up and play like they did the last 4 weeks, because they know they can't beat the Browns if the Browns come out there and play a good game. They know they can't do it. I know they can't do it. I think the Browns are a better football team, honestly. Now, that might come back to bite me. It might not be true after this week. Who knows? But through 5 weeks, from what I've seen from the Browns, they're a better football team than Pittsburgh, and they match up well with Pittsburgh. Everything Pittsburgh does well, pass rush, the Browns are uniquely equipped to stop that. They are uniquely equipped to take advantage of what Pittsburgh doesn't do well. They have all these tight ends. The Browns can run 13 personnel, have all field, and take advantage of those poor coverage linebackers. They are uniquely a bad matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are they going to take advantage of it? Are they going to take advantage of it? Or are they just going to let Pittsburgh, come in there and be, ooh, we're Pittsburgh, and then, do the Browns thing and fold? I don't think that's this team's character, but I can't rule it out until I see it.
Right. So before we continue, we got a couple super chats here. My man Matty Bond, $5. He says, yes, let Ben cook. Waffle House is hiring. After Miles gets a hold of him, he's going to need a new job. We've also got my man Joshua Hunter with the $10 donation. Thank you, Joshua, for that. Browns have more wins than all of the Steelers' previous opponents combined. So thank you, Josh, for that one. And then we have set apart last says Brownstown, home of the dog pound. The other thing, we've got some breaking news. LeVeon Bell actually likes winning. So it looks like he's appearing to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is official. And then, of course, my man, the Trib One says, Bell to the Chiefs. We got to do better, NFL. This is pretty obvious. This is like the Warriors. The Chiefs are becoming the Warriors. But with that said, it sounds like Quincy and Tony have some closing remarks. So we're going to let them go, and then we're going to end the show. So, Tony, I'll let you say something, and then Quincy, or however you guys want to do it. I think Tony.
I'll go
let
first.
Tony talk. All right, we'll let Tony talk.
Let's go. No, I mean, look, I agree with Quincy. If the Browns go out and play their best game, they absolutely can beat the Steelers. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think either of these teams are fake good, right? We talk about like, well, you know, are you 4-0, but who have you beaten? I find that kind of analysis, like who have you beaten? They can't have played anybody else, right? It's not like they lost the games to the good teams. They just haven't played anybody yet. I mean, you look at Tennessee, right? You could have looked at Tennessee going into that game against Buffalo the other night and said, well, who did Tennessee beat? They beat Denver, Jacksonville, and Minnesota. No good teams in there. Then they went out there and they killed Buffalo, right? So I find that, I mean, like, I get it, right? The Steelers haven't played anybody. I'm not trying to make excuses for it. They just they just couldn't have played anybody. So we'll see on Sunday. The other thing about Quincy, we were talking about there, I'm actually, as a Steeler fan, I am much less worried about any sort of two tight end sets. And maybe this is one of those I might say is wrong, and then all of a sudden it's 300 yards rushing for the Browns. But I'm much less worried about the 12 personnel kind of thing, the two tight end sets. And much more worried about three receiver sets that they run out of, where the Steelers can't stay in base and they get out of it, and all of a sudden they're trusting Mike Hilton off the edge, you know, to set the edge there, and they're doing like the TJ Watt and middle linebacker stuff. That I'm actually more worried about than I am the two tight end. I think the Steelers, if they keep Alu on the field, I think they should have some success against the run. It's the play action that I worry about, and you hit on it, right? This is going to be a game about we're doing that play action and then trying to catch whoever the Steelers have in a one-on-one matchup, whether it's Hayden or Nelson deep. You know, Wentz should have had a deep throw last week that he missed. Watson missed some deep throws. The Steelers have definitely had miscommunication in that secondary. That is where I think, you know, if I'm as a Steeler fan right now, where I'm worried about this defense is defending the run in nickel and then defending the deep ball off of play action.
All right, Quincy, go ahead. Before we wrap this up, give your closing thoughts on this game.
Yeah, if this team weren't named the Cleveland Browns, if this was the Baltimore Ravens with this exact same roster walking into Pittsburgh, people would be like, yeah, Baltimore should win this game. It's up to them to lose it. It's the Cleveland Browns, right? And that's something that I'm not saying, oh, you just got to dismiss that. That's an actual factor. The Cleveland Browns have stunk in Heinz Field since that building was built up, and they were terrible in Three Rivers when Three Rivers was a thing. So these are all things that do matter. I'm not trying to dismiss the Steelers or say that the Steelers are this bad team. I've amended that one from the beginning of the year. Big Ben's been much better than I thought he would ever be coming into this season. And he's played well, and that's kind of held this team up. My thing is, I just think the Browns are a better team. I just think they should beat Pittsburgh. Home, road, they should beat this team if we're just talking about football. And this is the closest we're going to get to just talking about football when this game is concerned, because there's limited fans. It's not going to be the crazy raucous Heinz Field environment. The turf's not terrible anymore. You know, this is just going to be as close to it being a normal game.
What's the weather, actually? What's the weather like? It's not going to be raining or anything, is it?
It might be. I don't know. It's Northeast. Yeah. But, you know, it's about, if this is a football game and both teams show up, I feel much more confident that the Cleveland Browns can pull out a victory here, because I just think they're a better team. They should do it. They match up well enough. It's just with Cleveland, I've said this multiple times this year, it's a question of if they're going to do what they're supposed to do. Hey, that's not an ignorable question.
One thing we should hit on real quick is injury situation going into this game, because I know the Steelers had a big injury report yesterday. Looks like the only player for the Steelers that won't be able to go, and it's a big one, is David DeCastro, their right guard, all-pro guard. Yeah, but Kevin Dotson, here's the funny thing. Kevin Dotson, who stepped in, I love PFF grades for this reason. Kevin Dotson right now is the best Steelers offensive lineman, according to PFF. 88 grade. Yes, 88 grade from PFF for Kevin Dotson. Now, Dotson has been good. He's been good. Has he been the best Steeler offensive lineman? No, but he's been serving.
That's what I also want to talk to you about, Tony, real quick, because I saw these PFF. Are you guys really that bad at run blocking?
Yes.
Okay, because I was like, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington are your best run blockers? What is going on there?
And that's because they're really good at blocking wide receiver screens.
Yeah, your offensive line was like 50s across the board. I was like, they ain't gonna run the ball on Browns because they ain't gonna try it. Why would they try it? They're just gonna throw there. Why would you get the ball any closer to Myles Garrett?
3 words. Let Ben cook.
All right. With that being said, this show is coming to an end. We're definitely excited for this matchup. Best of luck to both teams. Hopefully, I wish you guys tie so the Bengals could somehow get back into this thing. It's probably not going to happen. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Quincy, my man, let them know where people can find your stuff at.
I'll probably be in jail if the Browns win this game on Sunday.
Imagine if they blow them out. If the Browns blow them out. My goodness. You need to live stream it. I need a live stream right after the game if the Browns blow them out.
Oh boy, they've been asking for the last few weeks. I might have to give it to them. But yeah, you can find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. That's where you'll find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter at Quincy. And if you're a Browns fan or if you're a Steelers fan, you want to troll me if you think this is going to go the other way, follow me there.
Sonny, let the people know where they can find your stuff at, my man.
SZG Sports everywhere, IG, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I try to do IG Lives, a halftime report for the game for the Ravens. Also, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you know where I am. I'm here from an undisclosed location in Europe. Nah, you guys know where I am. As Tony called me, the biggest Ravens UK fan or something like that.
Yeah, of course. The only one I know.
Anyway. Thank you guys. We have 200 people watching us. We appreciate all the love that you guys and support that you guys are giving us. So thank you. Don't forget to hit that like as we are finishing the stream.
Appreciate it. Tony, let people know where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Locked On Steelers. I was on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So if you want to hear me talk about the Steelers game against the Eagles, I do that on Tuesday. We actually hit on the Browns a little bit on that podcast. Then I was on Wednesday. If you want to hear me debate about why I think Le'Veon Bell would have made a great Steeler, even though he is now a Kansas City Chiefs. So do that. You can also find me, of course, here Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Thank you to everyone who subscribed so far. Our numbers so far have been fantastic. So thank you to everyone who's watching.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for all of the super chats, all of the support. We truly appreciate it. We're going to be doing some things in the future here to take it up a little bit of a notch. And that's thanks to you guys and that support and those super chats. So the more that you guys keep those coming, not saying that we're begging for money, but the better resources we'll be able to have and the more that we'll be able to grow the show. So we truly appreciate that, especially from the fans. Just a few months ago, I told these fellas we only had 70 subscribers. Now we're over 1,000. Let's keep that going. Let's keep growing this as much as we can. But with that said, I'm Ace Boogie. You can find my stuff on New Stripe City. You can also find me here on AFC North Talk. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, get your life together. Come on. You gotta subscribe. I mean, are you not gonna want to laugh at this? Do you not want to see Tony and Quincy next Tuesday when this thing is going to be going off? Don't miss it. Make sure that you subscribe, turn that notification bell on, and that way you're here for the AFC North Talk. But with that being said, this is the AFC North Talk, and you guys have a great night. Peace.
Peace out.